Live from Houston, Texas, my hometown, it is the rebroadcast of the Bunker Bob Show. We are back on the air and back rolling for the GOP state convention right here in Texas because, well, I guess it's that time again. Time for some straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Greetings, thrill seekers, music lovers, conversationalists from across the fruited plains of the great state of Texas. I am your host, Bunker Bob Steinhagen, bringing you an hour of unfiltered, unadulterated, and unapologetic conservatism. And I want to welcome those of you who are listening on my podcast via Apple Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Spotify, Google Podcasts, just to name a few. And, wow, back on the air again. I got to tell you, it feels amazing. This is a long time coming because whether you like it or not, we're back on. And those of you who hate free speech, hate it most of all. Yes, that's right, folks. The Texas State Supreme Court said, agreed with the Fifth Court of Appeals and said that the lawsuit, the defamation lawsuit that was essentially a SLAP lawsuit, which stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation, it was completely frivolous. It was fabricated, and it was designed to do one thing, to keep me off the air. And now we are waiting on the appeals court to basically send down a mandate for sanctions, and which basically means that the developer is now facing the judge, and the judge will determine. And by the way, the trial court judge has been removed for obvious reasons, and they have replaced that judge with someone I think that's competent, perhaps. And it is that judge's responsibility to determine a sanction. So first of all, if sanctions should be in place in this case, and I can't imagine a case more deserving of sanctions than this. But also, then the judge has to determine the sanctions that would be large enough that would deter this developer of an $850 million development. What is going to be the kind of sanction that would say to them that would deter them from ever doing something like this again? Because bottom line, folks, there's $850 million. It's a municipal utility district, and you know, they get basically paid in perpetuity. If you're stupid enough to live in a mud, and I'm sorry, but if you know what you know now, if you are informed of all of the facts, then you would have to, I think, that's my opinion, I think you'd have to be pretty stupid to live in a mud because you're taxed in perpetuity. And I am here at the Republican State Convention, and, you know, this is, and it starts tomorrow, by the way, but committee work has already started. And one of the things that is kind of a hot topic on the platform committee and legislative priority committee is limited government, obviously, and property rights. Because you hear a lot about property rights in there, right? Because, you know, everyone's talking about the fact that, you know, in Texas, you never really own your own property because you're constantly paying the government for your property every year in property taxes. Well, those who advocate the idea, let's get rid of property taxes, they are usually, you would think, they would not be for MUDs. But interestingly enough, the people who sued me, they own a MUD. That's what this is. I don't know how many MUDs they've created, but ultimately, if you live in a MUD, you will never be free from property taxes, even if the state of Texas eradicates property taxes forever, because you will be in debt to that developer in perpetuity. You sell your house, you die, and you leave it to your kids. They're going to be paying this developer. So what is a sanction sufficient enough to deter them from doing this again? Because ultimately, I mean, 20, 30,000, 50,000, 40,000, excuse me, 20, 30,000. Yeah, a few $1,000s. That's hilarious, obviously. The largest sanction that has ever been applied in a TCPA case is I believe, $750,000. What would $750,000 do to deter a plaintiff like this? I mean, we're talking, you start getting in the $50 million range, then I think now you're talking about deterrence. Now that would wake up this plaintiff that has acted in bad faith through the entire process, and they must find a way to learn a lesson. But who knows if that will happen, and who knows what the court will do? That's basically the court's up to the court's discretion. There's no ceiling, and there's no floor. The court is required to grant me attorney fees. Well, seeing as how I represented myself, there's really no attorney fees. So there are some things that they can do with that, but I mean, my cost is Thomas Reuters subscription, I guess, and that's a pretty penny. But ultimately, it comes down to sanctions and whether the Texas Citizen Participation Act, whether or not it actually has teeth, and whether or not the court will actually apply it as this was created. What's interesting about it is the Texas Citizen Participation Act was enacted unanimously when it was first created because a developer, ironically, sued a journalist who wrote a book, and they sued the journalist, they sued the publisher, they even sued someone a professor, I think, who wrote something on the dust jacket of that book, and so isn't it interesting? It's come full circle. So no matter the fact that TCPA was created with the intent to deter these big, deep-pocketed developers from basically making it a cost of doing business to basically throw a slap lawsuit at someone, keep them in court. It's been 2.5 years. 2.5 years this court case has been going. 2.5 years, folks. Think about what would happen, and I've thought about this. What would happen if Texas Citizen Participation Act weren't the law of the land? So I have looked at other cases in states where, other defamation cases, slap lawsuits like this in other states. You know how long these things last? 5, 8, even 10 years. So while this 2.5 years sounds like a lot, and it is, this has been just a long road to hoe. It's really quite fast in perspective when you put things in perspective like that, and so I'm grateful for the Texas Citizen Participation Act, and I'm grateful that Republicans have really kind of pushed that forward. Well, so that's kind of an update on what has been going on with me and what's happened with the lawsuit. I do want to thank those of you who prayed for me. That I do appreciate. Many of you have reached out and said that you're praying for me after you watched the show that I did that explained the ridiculous lawsuit against me. And so I'm grateful for that. Yeah, I just had dinner with some great Republican friends. Richard Henson, who is on the Legislative Priority Committee, and Jerry Fisher, our outgoing SRAC committee woman. and her husband, and a few others from the Legislative Priorities Committee. It was so we kind of just got back. They're back in session, and actually took a break for a little bit because they're looking at a rule change that may impact legislative priorities. Anyway, long story short, the reason that we're here today, and the reason I'm broadcasting today is, and why I chose to broadcast from here, is because this is, as I said, where the Republican State Convention is happening, and it is where where we have already, as of Monday and Tuesday, today is Tuesday, we have already had many committee meetings, subcommittee meetings. So we've had the Legislative Priorities Committee. We've had many subcommittees of the Platform Committee meet together. And so what I want to do is I kind of want to talk a little bit about the 2026 Republican Party platform. Across the state, Republicans filed 3,198 resolutions to shape the platform, and that's pretty incredible. And I got to tell you, it's a lot of work that goes into that. And when people think about what it means to be a Republican, I tell them all the time that you are a Republican in the based upon the platform, based upon the party platform. And I'm just checking to make sure I've got all the slides that I wanted to bring up lined up, and they are there. And so this is it's a neat thing to see that the scale of the big picture, the scale, 3,198 resolutions now before this committee. Rockwall adopted 233, and all of them are submitted. That matters because it puts us near the top of the whole state. 85 counties, 9 topic areas. This is the closest thing to a grassroots GOP wish list for the 2027 legislative session, and that's an important distinction because this does impact the legislative session in as much as legislators will tell those of us who are trying to get legislation passed, they'll say, well, this legislation is not in compliance with the party platform. And that's why this means so much. And so where the energy is government and election integrity. That tops the list at 607 resolutions, far ahead of everything else. 607 resolutions. 5 years on, election integrity is still the number one grassroots concern. Notice how much of this list that I'm going to be showing you is structural, how government runs versus pure social issues. And the real fights are out of the 3,000 plus resolutions, most are broad agreement. But there are 6 where Republicans are genuinely fighting each other, and I've ranked them most contested to least. Property tax is the biggest live argument. Then Convention of the States, which is an all-out civil war. We'll take them one at a time, and I'll show you the actual resolutions and some of the actual resolutions and who filed them. So contested issue number 1 I want to talk about is property tax, abolish versus reform. So while the issue is a contested issue, there's uniformity in one thing, and that is that everyone wants to get rid of property taxes. So Republicans are on that path. The conflict lies in how exactly to do it. Those who are for abolishing all property taxes outright, that's roughly 50 resolutions. Property tax means you never truly own your land. That's basically what they're saying, that you rent it from the government forever. And that's what most of us believe. Eliminate it entirely, revenue neutral, and in the appraisal district racket. Now, those who are on the negative or on the other side, they want to cut, cap, and reform. They don't necessarily want to fully abolish it. That's roughly 95 resolutions. Outright abolition leaves a multi-billion-dollar hole. Now, instead, hard spending caps. This is by the way, what the argument. This is the argument that those who are on this side of the position take. This is how they frame it. They say that outright abolition leaves a multi-billion-dollar hole. Instead, hard spending caps, appraisal limits, bond debt transparency, and phasing it down before swapping to a consumption tax is the best way to go. Now, here is a sample of the actual resolutions and who filed them. Contested issue number 1. So you can see that hold on just a second. Sorry about that. I just there we go. Hit the wrong button. So, abolish versus reform. Those who are for abolishing all property taxes outright are basically, this is what they look like, and so you have different counties that are Rockwall County, SD2, and San Jacinto County. This is kind of the wording and the verbiage of that, and this is the camp making the affirmative case. And so then you look at those who are on the other side. You have counties like Kerr, Rockwall, and El Paso County that's opposing that hard break from property taxes. And so these are kind of a sample of some of those resolutions that you could read yourself. The biggest issue, I think, that has the most most contentious argument is Convention of States. And this is one that, is those who favor it reaffirm and extend the Article 5 call, which is roughly 27 resolutions. An Article 5 Convention of the States is the only constitutional tool left, they would argue, to impose fiscal restraints, term limits, and rein in a runaway federal government. They want to keep Texas application active, and so Texas has already approved this in the legislature, and it is basically an open. There's no end to it. So Texas is ready to go when and if a constitutional convention of states occurs. Those who are on the other side, that's roughly 7 resolutions, say that a convention can't be controlled. It risks a runaway rewrite of the Constitution. It rescinds every outstanding Texas, and they want to rescind what Texas has approved, and they want to strike Plank 24, which is from the 2024 platform. They want to strike that entirely. And the next 2 slides are representative of those who support it. Rockwall County obviously being one of those, and Williamson County being the second. The opposition of those is counties like Holland and Bell and Burnett County. They basically have I've kind of summarized it, but I wanted to kind of give you a flavor of what these counties are submitting to the platform committee, so that you understand the platform committee takes all of those resolutions, they hone it down into one, and decide on it. The ultimate goal this year is, and I want to speak to the issue of Convention of the States. Here's the thing. I'm a supporter of Convention of the States. So let's just. I don't want there to be any question where I stand. That's my position. I support a Convention of States, and as a supporter, I believe it's the only way to get term limits for our members of Congress. Now, with that said, I really, in my finite mind, I cannot see a way that Convention of the States will ever actually take place. I'm just being honest. And I think that even those who are in favor, who are kind of working on this, they kind of, I think they see that possibly too. But at this point in the game, it is really kind of move to the argument of whether or not it's constitutional, whether or not it's right. And if the Constitution, and I cannot understand why anyone says it's not constitutional. It's Article 5. It's directly from the Constitution itself. My concern is why are we making so much fuss? Why is there so much opposition to it? You see the discrepancy in the number of pro Article 5 Constitution of the state resolutions versus those who oppose it. And yet, 2 years ago at the convention in San Antonio, the opposition had the power on the platform committee, and they reduced it to a minority report that went before the body at the general convention, and the body voted to approve that minority report and put it on the platform. That's what I think we are trying to avoid, is another minority report. If the majority of Republicans delegates support Convention of the States, then those of you who oppose it, you haven't made your argument strong enough. And so quit trying to back channel and manipulate the platform committees and legislative priority committees and make your case honestly. And I'm not saying that. Let me change that, because I don't mean to say that those who are pushing against Convention of the States are dishonest. They're not. What I do believe is let's do it all out front. Let's let the debate. Let's let the grassroots decide. And right now, Convention of the States, those who are in the affirmative are winning the debate, and like it or not, we just need to move on. But bottom line, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. And I realize that throws up even more issues for some people, but you know, that's just the issue. So let's move on. Okay. So local control versus state preemption, and those who are are for this are for county and city authority, and there's roughly 52 resolutions that focus on this. Now, this is an issue that I think is important because the state of Texas, here's the irony. You know, the city of McLennan Chisholm just voted for home rule. This one of the stupidest things I think that a city can do. And those who were advocating for it, I think, held an incredibly naive position. But ultimately, it's passed. It's a done deal. The horse is out of the barn. We can't go back. But those who, before, when McLennan Chisholm was limited government, it was the definition of a government that was limited. And people, the argument that they came out and made was, hey, you know, let's get local control rather than be limited by the government. And as though, so basically, empowering your local city government is going to be better than restricting what your local government can do. I don't see that. And Republicans and some of the idiots, and I don't mean idiots. I mean, I think it was stupid. I think those who did it were incredibly naive. I had Dennis London on my show, and of course his wife went after me on social media because, and that's why Dennis London will never be back on my show. That is, you know, folks, if you come on my show and you want to have a debate or an argument, fine, let's do it. But if you've got people who are just going to go after me on social media because you don't think I was fair, well then that's your problem. Don't come back on my show. I'm not the let your wife and you guys can go on social media and y'all can blow it up, knock yourself out, go after me. I'm not on social media really. I don't watch it that much, and have your day, go for it. But this issue that is on the platform is somewhat different than that. That is not what these questions of local control versus state control are. The argument of home rule versus state control was local control versus state control. That was a complete lie that they told McLennan Chisholm voters and that they tell people. That's a lie. You're not getting local control. You're basically opening the door for your government, for the city government to basically run roughshod over you. And I got to tell you, the McLennan Chisholm Home Rule Charter is a disaster for so many reasons. And most of us live in a home rule city. So you can you get the ramifications of it. There are a few cities, and if you are a municipal, a general law type A city or a type B city, you would be stupid to become home rule. Stay general law as long as you possibly can, because that's really where you have the most power as a citizen. Don't give your government more power. But this resolution is really focusing on the fact that you have things like municipal utility districts. Familiar with that? Municipal utility districts that basically can do. They are cities unto themselves, and the counties have no control over it. They can't. Counties should have the right to have some form of regulation over these municipal utility districts, special districts, what have you, in these data centers, that basically can ensure that there is water, that these developments or whatever they are have water. That's the issue going on, and they can put out fires, that they can protect themselves with the police. That the county, because most of these MUDs are in unincorporated cities or unincorporated areas, and you've got to have some kind of control, because ultimately these MUDs have they are basically a government unto themselves. They can take on debt without, and it is taxation without representation. Now, I know the argument. Those who live in a MUD choose to live in a MUD. I would argue that those who live in a MUD have no idea what that means. And if they knew what it meant to live in a MUD, I think a lot of people would think twice about it and would run for it. Now, there are some people who have money to burn. They don't care about, they're not fiscally responsible. MUDs are a great deal. It's these antiseptic little communities that are so picture perfect, and the management companies are as tyrannical as you can get. You have a dead bush. Get ready, folks. You'll be fined. You'll be ostracized. They're gonna make your life hell if you get just a little bit out of compliance with your HOA. And so it's just these things are funny to me. But this is really kind of where this issue rubber meets the road. Now, those who are against this state preemption of local rules, there's 7 of them. It's a patchwork of local rules. They say kills businesses and property rights, and that's the joke. That's the one thing that everyone will say. Well, property rights. Well, I believe in property rights. Well, I do too. It's interesting. I was talking to a state senator. I'm not going to tell you which state senator, but they gave me the argument when we were talking about MUDs of property rights. That people should be able to do what they want on their own property. And and I said, yeah, but there should be some. This isn't the Wild West. You're okay with a strip club being next to a school? Well, no, not that. No, I think. I mean, that's different. That's different. Oh, okay. It's different, huh? And later on in the conversation, that same senator basically said, "Oh, and windmills, windmill farms. We got to stop that." And I wasn't alone, by the way. And I looked around the room, and we all kind of shook our head and said, "Do you even hear yourself? Do you even know what you're saying?" So it's okay to stop windmill farms, but it's not okay to stop municipal utility districts. The people who are advocating for these, to allow these special districts to run roughshod, really are the problem. And so, but that's ultimately what you get. And let me just show you a couple of the resolutions. Rockwall County and Iron County, and again, especially municipal districts, no part of a MUD may violate the laws, statutes, or ordinances of the county in which it resides. I mean, these are fundamental, principled arguments, and that are reasonable. Then you look at those who don't like it. We encourage legislative preempt local government efforts to interfere with the state's sovereignty over property rights. Yeah, I wonder who wrote these. I wonder where that influence is coming from. Well, let's move on to contested issue number 4, IVF and embryo personhood. Now, for this, keeping IVF, regulate and protect embryos, roughly 13 resolutions. Families deserve access to IVF, protect life by regulating it, require clinics to report embryo counts, and stop the routine discarding of embryos without banning the practice. And those who are against or abolish or sharply curtail IVF, and that's 9 resolutions. And they basically say if life begins at conception, a frozen embryo is a person. Creating and destroying embryos can't be reconciled with that. Curtail or abolish IVF as currently practiced. And so you have Rockwall County, Williamson County. Obviously, I'm partial to Rockwall County, and I have that right. It is my show, and it is my great county. So yes, I'm going to highlight the Rockwall County when we submit things. And then those who are for abolishing it, Fannin, San Patricio. Oh man, I know I got that wrong. County. These are the ones who want to end it. And the thing about it is, I do believe that an embryo is alive. And so this is to me a sticky wicket more than any other. And I actually have a friend. My wife and I have a couple that they could not get pregnant, and they had friends who had done this IVF, and they had frozen some embryos, and so they implanted it into our friends, and the child into the womb of our friend, and she had a little girl, and then they did it again, and she had a little boy. So they were able to get pregnant because of it. So the fact is, I certainly think that there is a need to curtail some of what is happening with IVF, and so, but I'm not sure that eradicating it is the best solution either. But ultimately, is it a life or isn't it a life? I think it's a life. And so if it's a life, then it can't be destroyed. And then therein lies the problem, and therein lies the consternation between the two sides. Well, gambling, casino, and the lottery. Now, this is a really good issue, and it's good because, for those who are for legalized gambling, it's roughly 7 resolutions. They say that Texans already gamble across state lines and online, legalized and regulated, and that includes prediction market to capture the revenue instead of exporting it outside of the state. But about 51 resolutions talked about predatory gambling, preys on the poor, casino interests have foreign and corporate ties, and they oppose all expansion and abolish the Texas lottery outright. And just for sense of perspective, State Senator Bob Hall, our great state senator of Senate District 2, was at legislative priorities today and talked about eradicating the Texas lottery, stopping gambling, and I couldn't agree more. I'm one of those who stands on the side of preventing gambling and casinos from moving forward. So it's a good thing, and I think that the overwhelming majority of the resolutions reflect this, and I think the overwhelming majority of our delegates agree with that, is eradicating it. And we have just a sample from Jefferson County, Travis, Webb County, Travis focusing on prediction market wing of it. And then those who are on my side, and Senator Hall's side, are counties like, Rockwall, Williamson, and Fannin County. And so it's kind of a look at an important issue. And then the last 6 is closed versus open primaries. And those who are for closed primaries is roughly 33 resolutions. Democrats and crossover voters dilute the Republican primary. And they're calling for a requirement of party registration, an oath of affiliation, so Republicans pick Republican nominees, party autonomy. Those who are against it, and that was only 5 resolutions, they say closed primaries shrink participation and lock out independents who lean right. Texas should remain an open primary state. I got to tell you, I think that argument that it locks out independents is a bogus argument. Just ridiculously bogus. Stupid. If you and people, when people say they're independent, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second. When people say they vote for the person, they're the problem. As I have said before, and I will say again, I believe what the Bible says, that there are none good, not even one. There's none that are good. Why would I vote for a person that I know is naturally sinful? I don't. That's why I vote for party, where the principle is. And yes, I endorse Don Huffines for comptroller. Yes. Why? Because he is a Republican. Now, do I think Don Huffines is a morally bankrupt individual? Yes. I do. I absolutely do. Who else? How is it that anyone would intentionally try to destroy other people through weaponizing the civil legal system against a single mom of 4 kids simply because she stands up against them? That's a morally bankrupt individual. Suing me for defamation. Both of us were sued for defamation. Bogus. Fabricating facts. That it demonstrates bankrupt of integrity. So then the question is, I'd rather vote for a morally bankrupt Republican than a Democrat? Well, yeah. You see, because I believe that someone running as a Democrat would have to be morally bankrupt to embrace the Democrat platform. Show me in the Democrat platform. And have you seen the shows I do where I compare the different parties? And this year, once we've gotten through this state convention, and once all of the other parties have had their conventions and have their party platforms published, I'll be doing comparisons of Libertarian, Green, Democrat, and, of course, Republican. And to show you the differences between these platforms. Very few people anymore read these platforms, but to call yourself a Republican, what does that mean? I actually was asked that by a precinct chairman here in Rockwall County. And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" I said because I made the comment they're not acting like a Republican, and they said, "Well, what does that mean? Not acting like a Republican?" And I was kind of shocked by that, but I said it was very simple. How do they resemble the Republican platform? I think every Republican, if I call myself a Republican, I'm saying, this is what I believe, I'm saying that I affirm the Republican platform. Now, does that mean that you embrace all of it? Well, certainly not, but where you disagree, you should identify that. There was a time where it wasn't that long ago when George W. Bush was governor, and our platform planks on education were terrible. And so I was outspoken in my opposition to some of the platform planks on education. George W. Bush was terrible on education. He was when he was governor, and he was when he was president. That's why you have Every Child Left Behind, that where George W. Bush and the Lion of the Senate, Ted Kennedy, got together and put this awful piece of legislation together. Okay, so just because I say that you're defined as a Republican by the platform, you don't necessarily have to agree with everything, but where you disagree, you need to be able to articulate that. Right now, folks, I agree with our Republican platform. I'm in line with our Republican platform. And I love these conventions. I absolutely do. I think they're great fun, and we have a good time. A good time together at putting these things together. And so this is we have Rockwall County, Ellis County. These are some sample of what resolutions were submitted to the platform committee for that. And then you have those who are oppose it, and that's kind of how those look. So our footprint, we adopted 233 in Rockwall and submitted every one. We are number 2 in the state as far as the number of platform planks submitted. Harris County, that's here in Houston, submitted the most. And I think I believe it's around 900. So Harris County is very active. And that should say something. Those of you who in Rockwall County, and you know who you are, who are arguing, we have too many platform planks. We need to whittle them down. Folks, this is why we need more platform planks, not less. We need to be doing everything we can to help the platform committee do their job. And the more times they see an issue come up before their committee, the more likely it will be on the platform, but more importantly, the more likely and the greater strength the Legislative Priorities Committee has when adopting the 15 or so legislative priorities that they're going to bring before the body to whittle down to, I think, 9. So the real story is what we lead on. Special district oversight, MUDs accountable to the county, protecting residents around proposed water districts. And 14 of our resolutions are uniquely ours. Nobody else filed them. Special districts and local control, that's the Rockwall brain. Now, where everyone agrees, don't lose the forest for the trees here, folks. For every fight, there's an issue the party agrees on. Election integrity, huge. Banning taxpayer-funded lobbying, American laws for American courts, securing the grid, vaccine choice, ending energy subsidies, huge volume, almost no disagreement. That's the consensus core of the 2026 platform. Bottom line, the base agrees on principle. Limited government, election integrity, life, faith, free markets. Where they're at war is details, and the 2027 session turn on those 6 unsettled fights. And Rockwall is now a top 2 voice in that whole argument. Subscribe, share to that idea. So, folks, I sincerely appreciate you coming back and joining me. This is going to be fun. I'm hopefully going to be having some people come in here. I am above the convention center, is where the studio, our mobile studio is, and so we're hopefully going to have some great guests come in and talk about what's happened and happening. Tomorrow, kind of the opening of the convention, people are registering, and a lot going on. So, I do hope that you stay tuned and that you stay with me as we go through the convention. And then I'll be back in studio, and we'll be doing our regular show. We're going to have some great guests this year, hopefully, and of course some candidate forums along the way as well. I just want to say thank you for those of you who have stayed with me and have trusted me with your time. I hope it's not I tried to make sure that this is not a waste of time, that we have some good dialogue in here, and we're talking about things that really matter, because this is about straight talk. And so until next time, folks, I am Bunker Bob Steinhagen, looking forward to seeing you next time. Blessings.